What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Power Gamers Tactics Room. I'm your host, Bill Braun Bafflestone. So today we're having another episode of my Metagaming series, where I look at Dungeons & Dragons from a more holistic perspective. And today I wanted to talk about the new Unearthed Arcana, where they introduce Draconic options. I don't want to do a deep dive or anything into this because it's just an Unearthed Arcana. They're probably going to make a bunch of changes before they officially release it, at which point I will do a deep dive, because it seems like Dragonlance is coming, right? So they're testing the waters, and I gotta say, I really dig this Unearthed Arcana. The 4 new races that they introduce, I think, are all really good. They aren't overpowered, but they are good options for someone who wants to play a Draconic race. The 3 straight-up dragon races all come with a breath weapon, which they have fixed mechanically. It's pretty solid now. It only replaces 1 attack, and it's impressive because the damage is decent. It's save for half, which means it's 80% of the total for DPR instead of 60% if it's save or miss for nothing. And it's an AoE, so you could get 2 or 3 creatures into it and do that damage, making it fairly impressive and yet not overpowered because it's got the whole proficiency times per day thing. So elegant mechanic. I think that works, and I'm glad to see that they rolled it out with these 3 new dragon types. And then on top of that, these 3 dragon types all get a resistance, which is cool. And then they all get an additional once per day power. One gets an immunity, one gets another type of offensive breath weapon, which is okay. And then the third gets flight once a day, and then an always on psionic mind power, which is interesting because it's true telepathy where they only need to know a language and you don't need to share a language. But it's one way, you can only talk to them and they can't talk to you back. So, interesting, useful, not too overpowered. I think they did a great job with the 3 new dragon races. And then I do like the new kobold race. And I apologize to my friends out there that love kobolds and are upset because this one doesn't have pack tactics. But, I mean, come on, guys. Pack tactics is like the strongest racial ability in the game. If you don't have it, it's obviously going to be a step down. But this kobold, I think, is still really good. It gets an always-on benefit from its draconic ancestry, and the cantrip can be pretty good in certain builds. And they get this roar thing, which is also pretty good. It lasts for 2 rounds until the end of your next turn. 2 rounds is half the battle, pretty much. And it's an AoE that grants attacks at advantage for your entire party. So yeah, that's pretty solid. Even at proficiency times per day, I think that this kobold race is a pretty solid addition to the previous kobold, because they're not going to take it away. You can still get your pack tactics. It's just, I can see what they're doing here. The previous kobold had cowardliness built into the racial abilities. That's not what they want to do. They can't imply that every single person in a race has a negative characteristic. So they introduced this new race, and now it has a brave kobold, and now there are different role-playing options, and I think that's fine, and you don't have to play it. You can play the old kobold. Then there are 3 feats, and I like all of the feats because they introduce reactions, and I love a good reaction. It's hard to get reactions in this game, and to be able to get them through a feat is pretty fantastic. There's one that gives you absorb elements, a proficiency times per day, and that's fantastic. One of the best defensive spells in the game. If you don't have it, it's great to add, and even if you do have it, you only get 4 spell slots, so it's nice to add. And then it has a bonus action, no concentration, elemental weapon. So that's fantastic. Only 1 time per day, that elemental weapon thing, so I think that takes a lot of the shine off of it for me. But it's a good feat, it's powerful, and it gets you that reaction. The other one gets you Cure Wounds, which is obviously an awesome add to put onto a spellcaster that doesn't have access to healing spells. And it comes with a reaction that's like half a shield. And that can be okay. If you have shield and you have slots available and you're getting attacked by lots of creatures, then you want to cast shield. But you can have this too, and if it's just 1 attack, and you know that you're close within a d4, I can see it being useful. I like it. And then I am really interested in the last one, the half feat, because it's got an interesting reaction, damage, and a push, and its proficiency times per day. So I think that makes it look good against like Fey Touched and Shadow Touched, and it's interesting. I can see using that in certain builds with like maybe Spirit Guardians or other push mechanics and stuff. So for a half feat, I think it's a nice addition to the options that include Fey Touched and Shadow Touched. As far as the spells, there are 7 new spells. There are 2 second level spells, icing, I forget. It's like a frost cone spell that does a little bit of control, and then a random mischievous spell. Neither of these are too impressive to me, but they're okay. Neither of them require a verbal component, which is kind of a nice little Benny for someone who plays a hide wizard or whatever. But, for second level, they're all right. They're not overpowered. They're not underpowered. I think they're nice additions. The third level spell, Flame Stride, could be problematic. This one seems overpowered to me. Plus 20 move, can't be, opportunity attacked, and then you do a d6 of damage to anyone you pass with no save at 50-foot movement. That can be really good. And if that's where it stopped, I think this might be balanced, but you can upcast it. And the upcasting is just too strong. So I'm going to guess that this one gets dialed back, probably like plus 10 move and upcast at like an extra bump per 2 levels, but currently overpowered in my opinion. The 4th level one is a Psychic Lance thing, and it's an interesting spell. In terms of a straight up offense, I'm not that impressed because it's one of those save and nothing happens spells, which I hate. But if you can stick it, it's okay. But the really interesting thing is that you can name someone and it will affect them automatically with a visible psychic beam, revealing their location. That can be interesting, and it will not expend the spell slot if the guy's not there. So that makes this a really interesting, like, detective spell, because you can cast it over and over and over until you find the guy. So it's interesting. I can see taking it if you are that detective type, but in terms of like pure offense, I wouldn't touch it. The 5th level spell is the other one that seems to me a bit overpowered. Summon Draconic Spirit. The only thing that keeps this in check a little bit is this kind of crazy component. Now, this is weird. The Unearthed Arcana that I see says that you need an art object from a dragon's hoard, which to me is like almost impossible get. But then I saw a different video on these things, and it showed a different version of it where it was like a different component. So I don't know, man. But regardless, it's a tough component. But man, this is a good spell. It summons a dragon that is large, so you can ride it, and it has an 80-foot move speed, and it has 19 AC, and it has crazy good resistances, and it shares one of those resistances with you, and it has blind sight, and it has an impressive multi-attack with a breath weapon. Man, this thing is really good. So I don't see this not getting nerfed. I mean, they got to dial that fly speed back, right? But if it makes it through like this, man, new go-to for this kid. Then there is a 6th level power, Platinum Shield, and this is okay. 6th level seems to be where they want to put all of those like really good defensive spells, like all of the investitures and Tasha's Otherworldly Guise. And this one is, in that category. And I have to say, it's interesting. It's clearly intended for fighting dragons, gives you evasion, gives you resistance, gives you half cover. But you can flip it around to people, and you don't have to cast it on yourself. A lot of these defensive spells you got to cast on yourself. So if we were fighting a dragon, I might stone shape or do some kind of ultimate defense where I'm going to be safe. And then I can use this spell to protect my colleagues and flip it around to people based on the scenario. So I can see casting it. I mean, it's an interesting spell. The 7th level spell, though, is really weird. You take on like these draconic qualities, and they're not that impressive. I mean, the 30-foot blind sight that you get to me is like the star of that show. But then you get a couple of other like useless things, and I don't know if I would cast this at 7th level. But that said, trying to be fair, 30-foot blind sight is amazing. I mean, really nothing else in this game gives you blind sight. True Seeing is a 6th level spell, but True Seeing cannot defeat atmospheric effects like smog, fog, or smoke, whereas Blind Fighting can. True Seeing's not concentration, and it lasts an hour. This one lasts for a minute, and it is concentration, but it also comes with like a bunch of other riders. So I don't think I like it, but that said, I think about 7th level spells, and they're a little weird, because they throw Force Cage and Simulacrum at you, and you're like, oh my god, I have to have these. And then once you get them, the rest of the spells after that aren't like super impressive to me. So this can maybe be just one of those other 7th level spells that aren't too impressive to me. Seems like it's, fairly balanced, if not underpowered to me. So yeah, a decent addition. So that's all of the stuff that they added in the Unearthed Arcana. I think all of it is super cool thematically because, dude, this is Dungeons and Dragons should be cool, and people want to play dragons, and we should have cool dragon options, and I think this got the job done. They're going to do some tweaking, but overall, I think this was pretty balanced. Just like 2 spells that I think probably need to be adjusted, and then everything else I think is pretty solid. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Power Gamers Tactics Room. I'm your host, Bob Bafflestone. See you next time.